7 o'clock, so I'd like to call this meeting of the Silver Falls School Board to order, and please note attendance, Denise. Just for the public's information, Wally Lehrman called, and he was probably going to arrive a little late, so if he wanders in, that's why he's late. He's hauling blueberries. Please join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have quite a few items on our consent agenda tonight. Is there a motion for approval?
A motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it passes. And one of the items on the consent agenda was our new high school principal, Justin Llewellyn. So I want to introduce Justin to everybody. Justin, do you have any words you want to say?
Hello, everyone, and I'm very excited to be the new principal of Silverton High School, and can't wait to get in the building and meet staff and have the opportunity to sit down and visit with each of them, as many as I can before the school year's out, and then hopefully as many as possible over the summer, if I was able to do that, so that come back when we get back in the building and we're kicking things off. I know as much as possible about the school and can help kind of drive the plan that we put in place to get things going. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Good to have you. Okay, every year this time we're in the budget cycle, and we have a budget hearing at our June meeting. So I'd like to open the budget hearing for the 2016-17 fiscal year budget and 2015-16 fiscal year supplemental budget. And Steve, would you want to take a minute and kind of, for the benefit to review for us, and then for the benefit of the audience to maybe review that a little bit, in the supplemental budget especially?
Yes, so this is normally the time we would have the budget hearing for next year's budget, and we did have two budget committee meetings, one in April and one in May, and the budget committee did approve the proposed budget, and it'll be the board's job to take a look at the approved budget tonight and hopefully adopt the budget for 16-17. The one thing that doesn't always happen, but does happen from time to time, is a supplemental budget for the current fiscal year. And anytime you have a change of 10% or more in any one particular fund, you must have a supplemental budget with a budget hearing. If it's less than 10%, we could bring a resolution forward without a budget hearing. And so we've talked about this a couple of times this year, but we did have in our Fund 200 Grants and Projects Fund, the 15-16 budget was adopted without any budget dollars for the state collaboration grant of about $400,000. We did end up receiving that grant. We didn't find out until, I believe, August, after this fiscal year started, that we were to receive those dollars. So we needed to basically take formal action to accept that and adjust the appropriations in that fund for that, as well as the debt service fund related to the full faith and credit loan, which was approved at this meeting last year. Again, after the budget was built, there was not a payment budgeted on the loan. Our first payment was due, they're semi-annual payments. The first payment was due in this fiscal year, and so there was not a principal and interest payment budgeted in the 15-16 budget, so we need to appropriate for that as well as an adjustment in the general obligation debt service fund and the PERS debt service fund. The payments budgeted did not match the payment schedule by a little bit, so we need to make sure we have the appropriations correct, for the budget there. So.
Okay, thank you, Steve. When we have a budget hearing, we always have an audience with visitors related to budget items only. So would anyone like to address the board on budget items this evening? Ray.
Question.
Yes, please. Come on up. Oh. Yeah. And please sign in. You know the drill, but please sign in and keep your comments to 3 minutes or under. So.
Ray Kazer, 828 Sun Valley Court, Silverton. I know the budget's just an estimate, and you proceed in that way. And the district, of course, is the breadwinner in the sense of receiving the monies, and the schools are the consumers, if you will. So my question has to do with, and one other comment, pencils and papers and supplies and all this sort of thing. I know you can't budget that down to the penny. There are all, it's an estimate, okay, so. But what the question has to do with salaries and in particular certified people. And so once the personnel in the building are hired and all this is done, then you know pretty well what the cost is going to be. And so in the budget, I believe there's a figure for the district cost for an FTE. The high school, I think it's $93,500, if I got that correctly. And now don't get excited. People don't get paid that much, okay? That's district cost. That's not somebody's take-home pay. So the hypothetical question that I have, and let's make the arithmetic easy. Let's say that budget figure was 90,000, okay? So the arithmetic becomes easy. So let's say we have a person who is costing the district 100,000. That person retires, okay? And then is replaced with a person who cost the district 70. And then the budget, there's a 90. All right, so the district is gaining 10,000 because the person is retired, and they're gaining 20,000 because the new employee is less expensive. So there's a $30,000 swing. So my question is, does that $30,000 remain in the building's budget for the principal to spend at his or her discretion, or does that go back to the district pot?
It's a very good question, Ray. So the figure that you mentioned, the $93,000 figure, is based upon the average salary for all licensed staff teachers within the school district. And so for budgeting purposes, really where that comes into play. What I can answer this is by saying there are two portions of revenue that come into each of the schools. One being salary and benefits specific for the licensed and classified and administrative staff for that matter, and the other being the consumables or the items that you use for the day-to-day operations. So we've heard of those as the 300 to 600 items. The difference in savings, or the difference in the amount of that using the example you just referred to, really considers a snapshot at this point in time when we make the budget. So if a teacher does come in less, that money is not subject to carryover specific to that building. The 300 to 600 items, the supplies, the equipment, those items are subject to carryover. So if a school spends less than their appropriation, then they do get to retain that. I think the example that I'd like to give to help explain this even better is that if we have a teacher, average teacher that's $93,000, and that school hires a teacher that costs $110,000, we also don't hold that school accountable for the additional $17,000.
Yeah, I was going to ask that too.
So it goes both ways, and so I think really it's a feature of our funding formula that allows for as accurate a budgeting from a license standpoint as we can, and then that reconciliation occurs by the end of the school year, or actually beyond the school year, because the reconciliation takes a little while to occur, and then we do it all over again the next year. So specific to your question, no, that savings does not go to that school specific to that example, but the savings from the 300 to 600 items do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Would anyone else like to address the board on budget issues? Okay, student reps, Carmen.
Okay, this is Rachel Peters, and that's Ellie Bright. They're going to join us. Okay. So right now we have just a bunch of clubs going on because sports just got over. So first we have She Is Safe. Last Friday, the She Is Safe Club held their first meeting. They finalized the date for their upcoming summer bake sale. The bake sale will be during Homer Days. All the money made that day will go toward the She Is Safe Club.
And the Red Cross Club just, the Red Cross organization just got done filming a commercial for Kristen Barnes, who received an award for her dedication at the Red Cross in Washington, D.C. And then last week, we finished putting smoke alarms into people's houses across the community. And then a couple of weeks ago, a lot of us in the Red Cross Club went to Willamette University for the Cascade Disaster Academy, and we're also doing like a lot of our senior projects on it. And then we learned how to deal with like if there were huge natural disasters, how we can learn to like run a shelter.
For Interact Club, last week they spread Dark Bust for the graduation. And in the summer, they will be working at the Strawberry Festival on June 17th.
Okay, next we have Link Crew. Last week they held a meeting with all the new Link Crew members. Mrs. Hayes, the director of Link Crew, went over the expectations and mandatory meeting dates. The club is very excited to show the new freshman class just how awesome Silverton High School is.
For the National Honor Society, all the NHS applications were due last Friday, and they are currently going over the applicants' applications for the 2016-2017 school year.
That's all we have.
Yep.
Okay, great. Rachel and Ellie, are you guys going to be the reps for next year?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Not total. And Carmen, you won't be next year?
I don't know yet. I don't know. My schedule kind of got. all
Okay, so it's kind of
stuck
up in
on
the air yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyways.
Any questions for them before they step back? Okay, thanks you guys.
Have a great summer.
We'll see you next year, maybe. Okay, I'd like to open it up for our regular audience with visitors now. If you want to address the board tonight, please be certain to sign in before you present. And in order to ensure equity among the speakers, we ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. If there's a group of 3 or more that wants to appoint a representative, we'll extend that to 5 minutes. So, would anyone like to address the board? And this isn't just for budget items, this is for anything. Okay, we'll move on to discussion items. Our first one, postponement of Butte Creek seismic upgrade project from summer of 2016 to summer of 2017. Zach Stokes is from ZCS Engineering is here to kind of explain the reasoning behind this tonight.
Good evening. There's really no other way to say it. The Butte Creek project, we've decided, needs to be postponed until next summer rather than construction this summer, which was anticipated up until about a week ago, actually. We had everything in order early February, got some cost estimates in, and it was determined that we were doing good. We added some stuff back into the project that we had pulled out, actually, in anticipation of bids coming in on budget. Through the bid process, through the CMGC contractor, it was determined that we were significantly over budget.
What month, excuse me, what month did the bids go out? Was it in?
I believe it was March.
Okay.
March or early April. I'd have to get back to you on that specifically.
Well, gives me an idea.
Yeah. So we've been working on it a couple months, got initial bids back. There were a couple of divisions that were high. Roofing and framing were particularly high. Because of the construction market right now, we didn't get a lot of coverage through all of the divisions, which is difficult when we're going back and trying to value engineer the project to reduce costs but keep the effect of the project the same. So we went through a value engineering iteration that we thought was going to be pretty effective, and it didn't turn out to be as effective as we had hoped, and we were still over budget by a substantial amount. Right now we're looking at like $180,000. This is something that's happening throughout the state right now because there are a lot of contractors that are very busy. And this is a particularly busy summer. We've got a lot of educational work going on, and the private market's doing very well also. So there's a lot going on, lots of summer work, and we just didn't get enough bids to have what I would call a lot of competition, frankly.
It sounds like the bids went out kind of late in the cycle as well.
A little bit. We had a CMGC contractor on board to help us with initial budgeting and getting everything in shape to then package those up. One thing that we like about that method of contracting is we're able to get some early sub participation. So they had gone out and talked to subs and gotten numbers and tried to get people excited about the job, but by the time it went out onto the street, that wasn't as effective as it has been in the past, honestly, for us. This is a schedule that we've had successfully in the past, and this time it just didn't come together at Butte Creek the way that we had hoped. Scotts Mills, we're still on track. We had similar problems, but the magnitude of the problems wasn't as large, so we've been able to re-engineer and design on the fly over the last couple weeks and bring those costs back into check. Schedule-wise, our anticipation is now that we've got the design done, we can make some tweaks based on what we learned from the last bidding cycle, add some additive alternates where for different grades of materials. One thing we've talked a lot about is roofing, rather than having a higher cost roofing, have a higher cost roofing and a more economical roofing as an option, so that if bids still come in high, we have other items that we can look back to and still move the project forward, frankly. The concept with bidding it out in December or January is that we'd be the first project, or one of the first projects on the books for the subcontractors in the summer busy period, rather than towards the middle or end. And that should increase the competition and also decrease the costs.
Okay.
Any other questions? I think,
Unfortunate, but a reality.
honestly, we're
This
seeing
time,
this
I
throughout
guess.
the state everywhere right now. It's not something that's uncommon to Silverton. I don't like to sit here and say that we can't make something happen for this year, but it is something that's happening throughout the state. Projects are coming in over budget. One nice thing is that we have the opportunity to say, okay, let's look at this again, rebid it out, and take care of it next year.
I think we have to understand it's a market dynamic. I mean, you're seeing it in the private world, you know, in the homeowner. I mean, I had some work bid out with my contractor who I've used multiple times, and my bid changed. And I want him to do some more work in a few months. He won't even give me a bid right now because he's like, it's too fluctuating.
Yeah.
So we're seeing it all over the place.
When we went back to some of the subs and said, okay, we're trying to get this thing in budget, what can you work with us? We want to do some value engineering, change the roofing system or change the roof structure at the cafeteria at Butte Creek. We just didn't see the savings that we had hoped to, largely because everybody's so busy. We weren't getting a dollar for dollar return, I feel like. We weren't getting the best bang for the buck for the district, and that's why I ultimately recommended that rather than continue to cut and pay a premium for a decreased scope, that we opt to push it to next year, clean everything up, give us a lot of options through the bidding process so that we can get the most value for the district with the money that's on hand.
Hey, Zach, you mentioned that we do anticipate a slowdown maybe with construction. Let's say, for argument's sake, it doesn't happen. So we're at the same spot next year. What happens next year?
Two things. Construction probably won't slow down for next summer. That being said, typically over the winter period, there is a lull in business. Just based on new projects getting started, the holidays, and it's a more ideal time to go out for bids. So it's not that next summer is going to be less busy. Actually, I think it's probably going to be more busy because of the bonds that were passed this spring and the other seismic rehabilitation grants that have been awarded since, well, in the last several months. But by being early in the bid schedule, we'll have the opportunity to get more subs who are interested in the projects and will competitively bid it rather than the results that we got.
Provided we experience that typical winter slowdown.
Exactly.
What if we don't?
The other option is to come back and say, okay, we're gonna look at different parts of the buildings. Butte Creek has a couple classroom wings on each end. Maybe we have to do some specific value engineering on those. That's another item where we look at the roof system. Right now, we've got a nice high-quality roof system that the district would choose to put on should they choose to put a new roof on a building. There are more economical options that may not be as ideal, but will still function. So there's compromises like that we can make. We'd rather not, but if it's between getting a seismic rehabilitation done on budget and not, I think that it's something that we have to work with Tim and Andy on, or excuse me, Lauren and Andy on, and come up with a solution. And we've got ideas for those.
Nice, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay. Other questions for Zach? Okay, thank you, Zach. Thanks for coming in today.
Absolutely.
Let us know what's going on. Okay, next discussion item, proposed revision to policy EEA/EEAB, student transportation services. This is a first reading. Does anybody have anything on this one? Questions or concerns? Okay, like I said, it's the first reading. We'll have 2 more before we adopt it, so. Next one, our summer board work session. We talked about this at our last work session, and we always have an extended work session in August. Probably have some training and some things like that. The date we decided on is set for August 15th from 5:30 to 8:30. And this is a week before our normal work session on August 22nd, so I would propose we cancel the August 22nd work session, just do everything on the 15th. Is that okay with everybody?
If I remember correctly, we chose the 15th because there were several conflicts on the
Yeah,
22nd.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, so put that on your calendars for the 15th of August, and then nothing on the 22nd. And then also our July 25th work session, a lot of times we cancel that because, you know, frankly, sometimes there isn't a lot going on then. So it's a good one that we can cancel if we need to. And right now, there isn't anything scheduled for July that couldn't be, you know, pushed to June or pushed to August. So what's people's feelings on that? Late July is kind of a tough time for a lot of us anyway. So,
I think there's no business and we can either do it before or afterwards, then let's cancel it.
okay. Everybody in agreement?
I think so. Sure.
Okay, so no July 25th work session.
If something comes up, we can reschedule.
Yeah, we can. If something important comes up, we can do a quick one or something.
Or do it on the same date if something were to come up. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, yeah. Okay, moving on. Every year, the board evaluates our superintendent, Mr. Belando, and we did this went into executive session at our regular session in May, and did this, we, you know, talked to Andy quite a bit, people wrote comments down on papers on 10 different standards, and I wrote up a summary of the evaluation, so I'm going to read the summary now. Attached is a summary of the superintendent evaluation forms which were completed by a majority of board members. As agreed, the board evaluated you on standards 1 through 10. The majority of board members gave you very favorable marks on each standard. The following is a summary of comments given in the evaluation process. Excuse me. The district strategic visioning plan is being used as a valuable tool in guiding decision-making for the district. Principals are gathering data used to drive decisions. This has resulted in improved educational metrics around things like attendance and academic growth, among others. These are the results of good leadership in using the visioning plan. So thanks for that, Andy. You have done a good job working with the board. We are kept up to date on new policies, state and federal requirements, and what is happening in the district. You have shown a willingness to work with the board even when there are differences in ideas and opinions. There has been good communication with the board and community this past year. Much of the public perception has changed from negative to positive, and this is a very good thing. You are well organized and always prepared. You have done a good job evaluating administrative needs and rebalancing duties amongst our principals. You take a leadership role even when it might be an unpopular thing to do. Human resources leadership has been done very well. This has taken lots of time this year. You don't shy away from confronting and addressing issues. We have a large, focused staff meeting students' needs. You model ethical and moral leadership and personal integrity. When you are wrong about something, you admit it and make it right. These are good examples for our staff to follow. And just a few recommendations. Become more involved in curriculum planning and development. Mostly because of time constraints, this has been an area left mostly to others. We encourage you to be more involved in this. While communication has been good this year, it can always be improved upon. Keep up efforts to increase communication to the public. And make sure instructional leadership strategies around the collaboration grant are clearly communicated with staff. As always, Andy, this year has brought many challenges to work through as a district. You have demonstrated effective leadership through it all and kept the vision and goals of the district at the forefront. The board thanks you for your dedication and hard work and your commitment to our students, staff, and community. We appreciate your approachability, your willingness to listen, and your leadership in providing our students with the best possible education. Your work is very much appreciated. Thank you for always striving to do what's best for kids. So, that's where we ended up. Okay, our last discussion item, consideration of property purchase, 0.92 acres and a home at 617 Grant Street, Silverton. Do you want to kind of give a background on this, Andy? You could probably do it better than I can.
Sure. There is some history to this as well. As the board is aware, this will be beneficial for the public. The .92 acres is located at 617 Grant Street, and it's just on the northeast corner of Silverton High School. It's a property that was considered for acquisition actually in the mid-90s when Silverton High School was first located on the site. While the school district did not acquire the property at the time, what they were able to do with the property owner is arrange for a right of first refusal specific to that property, meaning at any point in the future, had the homeowner sold the property, that the school district would have the right of first refusal by definition of whatever was offered on the property. So since then, fast forward 20 years later, that property is now the property owner is now interested in selling the property, and rather than specifically administer the right to first refusal in this process, the homeowner has actually approached the school district to say, hey, we know we had this discussion beginning 20 years ago. Are you interested today, 2016, in acquiring that property? And each of you has received a Google Earth shot of the property, and acquisition of the property would actually square off that corner of Silverton High School, and I think you as a board have to have some conversation now about I think your interest and your intent of potentially acquiring that property. I know the property owner is interested in hearing what your interest is, and of course we're at a point now where this is something that should and needs to occur in public, and of course if public input is something that anyone can provide to you. So that's a brief history of how we got to this point. We do have an appraisal scheduled for that property, and we anticipate to be the first week, possibly the second week of July. And so you'll have a little bit more information to work with on value. But at this point, I really think you should have a good conversation about your interest, your intent, whether that's something that you would like to see through. Final comment that I'll make is clearly 20 years ago, again, the different board at the time, well, with one exception, had an interest in that property enough to acquire a right of first refusal. So I think there was clearly some visionary planning, some long-term planning in effect that I think should be considered as you have your conversation about this property.
Okay, discussion, thoughts?
Well, due to the parking problem we have, I would highly encourage the purchase of this property. The proximity, everything about it lends in a positive.
I agree. I think it's a valuable piece for the district and for the high school specifically. I think we do need to have a conversation later about what to do regarding the house, if we want to rent it or what we want to do with that. But as far as the parcel, I think it's absolutely, it's a valuable piece that will
Yeah, I think
big deal for the high school down the road.
going on with Irv's, statements, not that you like to tear things down and make parking lots out of them, but having, spent a lot of time at the high school now this year with my daughter, it's painfully obvious that there is a lack of parking, and it's really difficult to get in and out of there, or you have to park at Schlater and walk or park on the street. And that parcel at almost an acre would definitely probably be able to add quite a bit of, take a little stress off that whole parking situation. And I'm not saying we have to earmark it for parking,
Yeah.
but since Irv mentioned it too, I mean, it's the one thing in my mind, I said, what is this, what's lacking here? It's not the green space or the, space for our students, but we don't have a lot of parking, so.
Well, I think we probably do need the parking, and that it would be a convenient piece to have. I worry about the cost of it. Then if, we come to the point where we have to tear the house down, it's an older house, we have to deal with asbestos, clean it up. If we have an acre, where are we gonna be at? We're gonna be $250,000 for a parking lot? I mean, that seems pretty high, so I wonder, I think we should really keep that in consideration that, yeah, while it might be a nice piece, is it really worth that kind of money when we have, other places the money can be going?
Yeah, I think it definitely has to be affordable for the district, but at the same time, I agree with the parking thing, but beyond that, this would be, even if we use it for parking for a while and down the line, it's used for, building expansion, if, CTE expansion or something like that, it's right there. I think it's, if we can find a way to swing it financially, I think it's just a kind of a no-brainer.
It boxes in the whole parcel of land,
Yeah,
basically,
yeah.
it kind of takes that, it makes
Yeah,
it
it's
perfect
just,
square.
it's just a natural area to expand that property a little bit. But we do need to be able to afford it, so.
I agree with the comment about the parking as well, but I don't think we need to pigeonhole this as a parking issue. It's an expansion of the site. We can initially use it for parking or something else.
Yeah,
But long-term, I think it's any program expansion, that'd be the ideal spot to build something.
That's nice, we don't have to decide what it's gonna be in the future now. I mean, it's just a matter of, do we wanna act on this as an economically feasible for us right now? I'd rather have it and then decide 5 years, hey, maybe we don't need to do anything with it and sell it again, than, and not have it in 5 years, not be able to do something when we need it.
of course, yeah. A person could, if you didn't want to keep the house, a person could even, tear that down and gravel it and use it for gravel parking lot to begin with, and then, that leaves the options open down the line if something else comes up, so. But again, it has to be affordable,
Well, that's why we're getting the appraisal.
Yeah, yeah,
Or we could tear it down and dig a big swimming pool in there.
that's an idea.
Yeah,
You
I
gonna,
mean,
you gonna manage that?
yeah,
That would take the pressure off the city,
Yeah.
off using the city pool over here.
build a real pool.
Yeah. Water slide would be good, that's a good idea, yeah.
Yeah, charge admission, whatever.
Visionaries here, I like that.
Yeah, think outside the box.
Go pay
Yeah.
for itself.
Other comments? Okay, anything else on that one, Andy? Okay.
We'll
Heard what you
give you a
needed.
prize once we get some additional information.
When do you think the time frame of the appraisal was, you said?
First or second week of July.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other items for discussion tonight? Okay, administrator and staff reports. Excuse me, Andy, Silverton Middle School and end of the year school update.
Yeah, I'm going to do end of the school year update. Is wanted to take a moment and publicly thank our fine educators in Silver Falls School District. It just seems like each year moves quicker and quicker. And maybe that's just because I'm getting a little older, but I think that's just a common theme. We are a very, very busy school district with some incredible educators, and there's some transformation occurring in this district. Facility-wise, of course, but even related to doing some great things in education. And so kudos to each one of our educators, our administrators, our classified staff, our teachers, and kudos to each one of you. I just wanted to say thank you for everything that you do as a committed board to helping make our school district one of the finest around. And as you well know, we can back that up with quantifiers. We have an incredible school district as measured by performance, but equally important, I think, as measured by how people feel in this school district. It's a great place to be. We have some areas to improve, and we're going to continue focusing on that, and I think that's another indicator of a great school district at the end of a great year. So thank you very much for everything related to that. A couple of updates related to the middle school project. If you've driven by recently, you'll see there's lots of activity occurring. I saw some work going on today with pouring of the forms for the student drop-off and pickup area in the parking lot. Asphalt was laid today for the modulars, which are scheduled to arrive also in early July. And to be hooked up and ready to go. Lots of activity continues to occur inside the building. I've given each of you an updated sheet on summary of costs at this point. If you're tracking that, you'll notice that the total number actually went down a little bit because we've reconciled some credits. The estimates also for the playground and the covered play area at Mark Twain are coming in less than we estimated at this point, and I anticipate that will continue. We've got a couple of contracts on your action items tonight to help make those two things happen. I will point out that the playground movement, we have a contractor prepared to do that, and I believe that will occur early to mid-summer. The fabrication and the construction of the covered play area, however, literally just an email series today, will likely occur at the end of September, early October. And part of that is just the reality of how busy we are. PBS out of Woodburn will be fabricating that. I've already had an initial conversation with Jennifer Hannon about the reality of that and making certain that the first month of the school, we hope and pray for good weather, so we wouldn't necessarily need it, but it is the reality of it that we are going to have to construct that thing in late September, possibly early October, to get it fully constructed. So with that said, we have lots of great things going on, and I believe we're still on schedule, on track. The movement begins in less than 2 weeks, and we've had lots of planning related to that, and I believe we're in a good position to make that all happen. And finally, Mr. Chair, if I can comment on one more thing that's not on the agenda. I just thought of it this afternoon, and I think it's important to mention that a lot of attention is being given to school districts right now related to water quality, radon testing in schools, and I just think it's important to note that as a school district, we pay particular attention to that. Where about 2/3 of our schools are specific to well water, and so we actually have a whole regimen of monitoring and testing that we have to do with well water that's used for drinking and cooking purposes constantly. And Lauren and Helen Fetch and their staff members do that religiously. And our drinking water at each one of our well sites is safe, and we constantly monitor that. And if there are any concerns related to that, we would surely know about it, and we would follow appropriate protocols to address anything with our well waters. City water, we have 2 cities in our school district which provide specific water to our schools, one being the city of Silverton, the other being the city of Scotts Mills. And those 2 governmental entities, of course, monitor the quality of water at the source. It's up to us to monitor the quality of water where it comes out of the drinking fountains and out of each one of the faucets that are used for cooking. So we have ordered additional tests. We've already actually begun testing. We tested some of the faucets at Robert Frost, not all of them, in February and March, and all of those tests came back to this point clean and entirely acceptable. So we've ordered additional test kits for the remaining faucets at Robert Frost School. We're testing all of the faucets at Mark Twain School. Once the Silverton Middle School project is completed, we'll be testing all of the faucets there. It's important to note that we're replacing quite a bit of plumbing in the Silverton, the old Schlater building, the Silverton Middle School building, which I'm certain will make a difference there with some of the results. And we're also testing the water at Scotts Mills School over the summer to be certain that we're in full compliance and that our kids are accessing safe and drinking water. All of those results are public information and available upon request by anybody in the community, and so of course we'll keep you apprised of those test results as they happen.
So adding specifically to the schools using well water, is lead one of the things that's being tested for?
It is. There are quite a few hard water qualities that are tested in each one of the wells.
Including lead?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Check that myself. You bet. And then finally, specific to radon, we have actually had quite a bit of attention to radon testing in this district for many years. And we test all of our schools that have basements in them, and all of our schools are below the recommended threshold, as stated, I believe, by this federal agency specific to radon. We did find, I believe it was 3 years ago, some elevated levels of radon at Eugene Field School, and those were communicated to the board and the public at the time. Those were mitigated through air ventilation, and they continue to be below that threshold. So we're doing fine in that arena as well.
Okay, questions for Andy? Okay, Steve, financial report.
Yes, so the year-to-date financials through May 31st continue to track as we've discussed previously. We are just over 100% of total general fund budgeted resources, and we're 73% of expenditures, but June's our heavy month with end of the year, balance of contract payrolls and so forth. But I still anticipate expenditures to come below budget as well, so both sides of the ledger still tracking just the way we want. So.
Good.
Yeah.
Questions for Steve? Okay, thank you, Steve. Kristen Jorgensen, Scotts Mills.
He was in charge, not me.
You printed color pictures and we have $115 left.
I'm pretty good at this. Don't get distracted by the cute pictures of the students. May have been a plan. Scotts Mills School, we graduated 12 students, or promoted, 12 students to the high school on Friday night. It was really great. As we were watching the students go through, Helen Pleb and I and Kelsey Palmer kept saying, oh, I'm going to miss her because of this, or I'm going to miss him because of that. And every single student we said that about. So we're going to miss those students. But it was a great night, and I loved it. It was just my first official promotion ceremony at Scotts Mills, and it was really neat to see how personalized it was. A lot of tears, go figure. But a lot of, they had a slideshow with all the students, like as babies, through their 8th grade years, so that was really neat to see. We also had field day today, so our PTCC, and with also help from Brandon from the YMCA, came out, and we had a sort of wet field day, but it was successful. It held out. The rain held out right about till the end, so that was good. So just right now, making it through the last week of school is the goal. PE grant is due on Friday, so we are working hard to get our PE grant ready to submit again. The goal of having PE for every student every day. This year, it's been great. Helen Plov was an amazing PE teacher. She had us involved in lots of events. We had Fire Up Your Feet and Let's Move Active Schools, where we were doing different competitions. With Fire Up Your Feet, it included community and parents, and so families were submitting the minutes that they moved as a family in the month of May, along with our students at school and staff, and she actually texted me when I was on the way here and said we won second place, and so that's $1,350 for our PE program, which was really great, and we had tons of parents participating and sending in their minutes, so that was really great. Run to Rio was a celebration of our Run to Rio, so that's the photos I gave you. As you can see our map there, and our students ran 6,776 miles this year from Scotts Mills School to Rio de Janeiro for the Olympics was the goal. And so each classroom represented a country, and they had costumes, flags, and banners, as you can see. Even our 7th and 8th graders participated and had a good time. And they had won medals. And so at the bottom there, you can see Ms. Plov with our 5 gold medal winners. So they ran the most mileage, and I can't remember the breakdown of miles, but all students won either a gold, silver, or bronze medal, and then also there was like a participation tokens that they won along the way. So that was a really fun event for Scotts Mills, and we did the whole ceremonial. They walked through. We may have had some vandalism of the Olympic rings spray painted all over the fields, grassy area at our building, but it'll get mowed out before September, so we're good. And we had the student, Grayson Martin, you see there in the bottom, 8th grader, had the most mileage, and so he lit a torch. There was a lot of water around, and it was safe, so we were good. But it was really neat for him to, the whole Olympics thing. And then we had Dave Johnson, so that's Dave Johnson, former Olympian, came and did a kind of motivational speech for our students, and we had lots of parents there. And the student he has there is Ryan Brown, and he picked Ryan out of the crowd and talked about that's what he looked like in middle school, not as bulky as he is or was as an Olympic athlete, and talked about he found out he was fast because he was running from the police, which he spun it into a really good message to the kids. But it was a very neat event for our school, and it was great. And then all the kids got autographed photos. Yours aren't autographed, but you can at least pretend, or I can forge them for you if you want me to. So that was a really fun event. We also had a bingo night this year, bingo silent auction, and it was a huge event for Scotts Mills. Our PTCC went above and beyond getting donations. We had 85 donors for auction items and tons of raffle baskets donated by our Scotts Mills parents. We had a food and bake sale, which supported both outdoor school and the dance committee, which means more middle school dances, and raised over $9,000. So I think last year they made about $2,000.
Wow.
So they just really worked hard and had some great donations. It was a great event. We were bringing chairs and tables in as people were coming in because we couldn't seat everybody. So it's not a bad problem to have. So next year we're trying to figure out how do we get more space, just because of the number of people that came, which was great. We are 1-to-1, so we had a donation this year who kind of got all of our classrooms 1-to-1 in grades 1 through 8. Our kinder classroom has about 6 iPads, but we're comfortable with that because they're not using iPads as much. So but grades 1 through 8 are 1-to-1, and so we're trying to focus on ways we can implement them more and more into the classroom and learning environment. Our PTCC donated some Scotts Mills history books to our 5th and 6th grades, so they've been spending the last few weeks learning about the history of Scotts Mills. And then there's a big centennial celebration in August, and so we're working on getting students participating in that celebration by singing patriotic. We have a student that's going to sing. We also are working on other ways that the students can participate in that event. So those are some great things happening. Right now, our focus is, like I said, the end of the year, getting to Thursday, and then the seismic upgrade and getting packed and getting through Thursday, but also getting the building packed, and we're making good progress. I've been at the district office getting more tape and more boxes each week, but we're getting there, so we have lots of parents helping, and that's been great. Focusing on our TEL survey data, so the staff looked at that and picked some areas that we want to focus on as a staff for next year. PBIS, we are moving forward with PBIS, more school-wide events and rewards. We have a swim trip the students earned this Wednesday through the different PBIS reward system we have set up. We're also we have a data team we've started where we're looking at student data every 6 weeks on an intervention system with the goal of making sure each and every student's data is looked at least every 6 weeks by our data team is what we're calling it. So that's been something we're getting ready to start in the fall. And then working on our technology. Danielle Andrus is one of our tech gurus in the building, and she's working on creating what we call Appy Hour, not Happy Hour, Appy Hour at our staff meetings, where she's going to do just different things on the apps. There's so many apps that are free that teachers have access to, or even parents, and how can we get more involvement in those and utilizing what's out there, and then more professional development for our staff. The majority of our staff attended a conference in February, thanks to the professional development grant, and it was amazing because we had everybody there looking at technology together and what's kind of up and coming, and then it was just great for our staff to do that, because then they can everybody's on the same page, and we have some people that are way ahead in technology, and there's people like me who are kind of figuring things out, which is why you have paper pictures and not a beautiful presentation on technology. So we're working to get everybody on the same page of technology at Scotts Mills. So that's where we are with Scotts Mills. Any questions?
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about the process you use using the
The TEL survey? Yeah.
And how you determine what you're gonna work on.
Yeah, so we looked at, so the staff, individually before a staff meeting, were able to go on and look at the results for our building, and then I had them bring 2 or 3 celebrations, and then 2 or 3 focus areas that they came up with on their own, each staff member, and then each teacher. And then at our staff meeting, they all put it, they brought sticky notes and they put it in the appropriate place. And then we had a visit from Andy at the staff meeting, so it got cut short a little bit. But so what we're going to do from there is we have a final staff meeting on Thursday, so we kind of tabled it till Thursday, and then on Thursday we'll bring it back and talk about what are our focus areas going to be.
Good.
So, just real quickly, homeless, just a quick update. The current enrollment right now is 93 students attending our schools right now that are considered homeless in the Silver Falls Schools District schools, and there's 25 students being transported outside of our district, so to their home district. And, the goal this year coming into homeless was more opportunities for trainings for our liaisons, but I spent a lot of the year trying to figure it out myself. So there's kind of a learning curve with that, and I will pass those goals on to Mark Hannon, who's taking over homeless next year. So I'll pass over the list of to-dos that he can. So that's homeless.
Okay,
Any
questions for Kirsten? Thank you, Kirsten, good report.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the $9,000.
I know, isn't that exciting?
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we'll be making lists of things we can ask for.
Yeah. That's awesome, okay. Dana Peterson, Special Ed.
Good evening. So I'm just going to give you some highlights since I've taken over for Dr. Linda Brown as the new Director of Special Services, and then my top 8 things that you should know about special ed in Silver Falls School District. So I've been here approximately 18 weeks, and the first day I came down, by the end of the first day, I had gotten strep throat, and then immediately was out ill for the next 4 days. Then went home and gave the strep throat to my entire family, and then took a couple more days off to take care of kids. So I was very thankful that Andy has, a good sense of how life goes sometimes when you hire someone and then they don't show up for work. I can say that I work with an amazing district office team, and I want to give kudos to my administrative assistant, Marlis Jones, who is really the glue for me right now, and she has an amazing history of special ed programs in general and what her and Linda Brown built while Linda was here, and so that's been amazing for me. I've had great support by Andy, and he's offered me lots of professional guidance and shown me and given access to some administrative organizations. He's been gracious enough and hired an independent special education consultant to come in and assess our special education department. And just given some insight to the unique challenges and different things about Silverton and the Silver Falls School District. I've had a ton of support from district level colleagues, from Steve and Linda and Dandy, regarding things like budget and hiring questions, which I have a lot of usually, and professional development needs, so that's been great. Special education students, we have some great students here, and we have wonderful families, so I think the best part so far of my 18 weeks here is getting to go out to IEP meetings and parent meetings and just meet those folks and see kids in action in the buildings and in different programs, so that's been a lot of fun. So the top 8 things that I think that you guys should know about regarding special education in the district right now. For the 2015-2016 school year, we have approximately 492 students that are eligible for special education services. So that's kindergarten through 21, and this is about 14% of our entire student body. And those disabilities range from learning disabilities to autism to health impairments, brain injuries, vision and hearing impairments, and some kiddos that have orthopedic impairments. Special education teams, we have an awesome team in this district, so that includes all of our special education teachers, our special needs assistants, speech pathologists, vision and hearing specialists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, autism specialists, behavior specialists, so there's quite a large group of us that hone in on your child when they need supports, and I think that's a real key to success here in Silver Falls. Every school building in our district at least is serving at least one student on an IEP or someone with special needs services, so we're in every building. The Silver Falls School District provides a wide range of specialized services, all the way from an inclusive classroom setting through our learning resource centers. And we work with kids who need academic, behavioral, developmental, and social needs. Our special education teams and nurses work with over 126 medically complex or medically fragile students throughout the district. So that can be anywhere from a child that has type 1 diabetes to severe seizure disorder, to feeding tubes. So our nurses work really, really hard, and our special needs assistants are amazing. They are pseudo nurses almost every day. And then Silver Falls Special Education Transition Program, so that's for our students that are 18 to 21-year-olds. Next year, we're working really hard to get that transition program bulked up. They will be starting up 2 business models next year. One will be focusing on helping seniors do grocery shopping. And our teacher up there is working with the senior center here in town to identify a couple folks that might need help with that. And also a t-shirt printing business, which the teacher at the high school got a grant for a 3D printer. And so we'll be looking at starting those businesses and teaching those kiddos employment skills and social skills for them to hopefully be successful in employment when they leave us at 21. At the high school, we also have the basic skills classroom, has run for a while a dog sitting business. So if you're ever in the high school and you see some dogs in the building, they're usually down in the basic skills. They dog sit a few days a week, and it's amazing to see what a few dogs in the classroom can do. But those kids are learning a lot of good social skills, developmental skills of helping to care for the animals. And we also have an amazing coffee shop at the high school. If any of you have been to the Frothy Fox, our structured learning program teacher at the high school is in charge of that, and many of our students on IEPs work in there. I know we've had at least 1 or 2 students that have gone from there, graduated, and been able to get employment like places like Starbucks because they've already been serving coffee for 2 or 3 years at the high school. And it's just amazing. I've had 3 or 4 school districts in the valley just this year call and ask if they can come, and if you have come to see our coffee shop and see how they can recreate it in their own district. So it's a great opportunity for our kids, especially for employment. So what I found just with this job is exactly what I expected. I wanted to come back to the district. I came back to a job that I think is amazing, is what I wanted, and a district and a community that is really invested in every child. And I think that's probably the most exciting part for me is a lot of schools have their motto of every child. You know, they're really looking at every child, but sometimes special ed kids specifically can get left out of those things. In Silver Falls, I feel like we are, when we say every child, we mean every child. And so it's great to work at a district where the community and the school district rally around every kid to make sure that they're successful. Do you have any questions for me?
I think you said you have 14% special ed kids in the district. You may not know the answer, but is that increasing or decreasing or?
It's actually staying about flat. So the last 2 years, going back on the school district report cards, we go between like 14 and 16% routinely.
Okay, Dana, thank you.
Sure.
Awesome job so far. I know you've had a steep learning curve, but it's great to have you back in our
Thank
district. Okay, any board reports tonight?
You know, Tim, I have something to share. and
Sure.
Maybe I should have brought this up during discussion items, but I had a nice conversation with one of the parents from Bethany Charter School, and what they explained as a much-needed expansion to accommodate a growing student body. And what their hope was to adopt one of the modulars that currently sit at Eugene Field. And maybe this is maybe more of a question, Andy, for you, is I don't know if we have any of the modulars specifically earmarked for other locations, but I know that during the brief discussion, they said that they're willing to go ahead and cover all the expenses necessary to relocate to the new location and the retrofit. So I just thought we'd bring that up for discussion and find out if this is something that's feasible.
If I can, Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
if I
go ahead,
can
Andy.
chime in. Yes, we actually received a request a couple of months ago from a community member, a board member on his own, specific to one of the modulars. And after some investigation of that option, taking a look at the potential for impact in that, on that site, where it would be located, I actually told them no. That it wasn't an option that I was willing to consider at this point in time. And that reason came, I came to that conclusion for a number of reasons. First of all, it's a pretty limited site. The Bethany Charter School is, while the entire lot goes clear down beyond the, if you can envision it, there's an upper part like a shelf, and then it drops off down into more of a floodplain. That lower area is predominantly a drain field, and so it's pretty limited in what we can do out there. They have a track there, they have some green space that they use for playgrounds and so forth, so nothing can be placed down there. The proposal was actually specific to place the modular between the school and the existing covered play area. It's quite a tight area, which would have reduced a pretty significant portion of their playground. And so those were a couple of concerns that came to mind. The other is that, you know, when you think about use of modulars, you do think about modulars in terms of a temporary solution for a plan that comes with a plan. And so my other response was, rather than considering the placement of a modular at this point, which could be a consideration at some point. So I said, from my perspective as superintendent, it made more sense that approval of a modular Bethany Charter School would have to be in concert with a plan. What is the plan? Because right as the moment they're maximized at about 135 students. Well, that's not a charter maximum. That was the intent of the charter, I believe, years ago, is that we would maximize the existing site of Bethany Charter School, and that's quite a tight squeeze. So there is a little difference, Ron, and maybe how the information may have been shared with you, and that the enrollment is not growing. The enrollment is just maximized. And I think that's another conversation that would have to occur. If you add a classroom to a site like Bethany Charter School, then are we discussing renegotiating a charter? Are we discussing adding, the way we look at it is that's one classroom, we can now add 30 more students to that site potentially. And I don't believe that's in the best interest of the charter school and of the Silver Falls School District at this point in time. So there were a few other reasons that caused me to result in that decision, but I also asked the board, the Bethany Charter School Board, with the request to say, submit another plan to us over the course of next year that in addition to what it was that they asked for specific to the modular, about what does it look like 5 or 10 years down the road for Bethany Charter School, and how can we best navigate what some of their questions and concerns are. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I think it would be a conversation I would bring up to you as a school board and say there are implications that are maybe more specific or broader than just Bethany Charter School that you would have to be reeled into the conversation at that time. So that felt like the right thing to do, and that's where the decision came into play. I did ask the board member who I spoke with also to say that in the past, I can't speak for the board right now, and I was very clear about that, but in the past, the Silver Falls School Board has been open to the conversation of selling Bethany Charter School and site to the Bethany Charter School community itself. And if they were interested in that, I would take that interest to you as a board and get your perspective on that as well. If they own the property outright, they don't have to receive permission from me or from the board or anyone else in order to make some modifications like that. The other question is, if they do have a desire to increase their enrollment, that be part of their long-range facility planning process. That's a quick summary.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if I may ask, why did you think that it would not be in their best interest to, and the district's best interest, to increase enrollment?
Well, that's a conversation that the board would have to have. I mean, there are implications that they're currently at about 135 students. And I think when you talk about your school district of 3,800 students having 2 charter schools, that one is maximized by charter at 135, the other is maximized by the facility. If you're going to increase that really, I think, comes down to a board conversation, public input at that point about the merits, the potential advantages, the potential disadvantages of what that looks like. And you actually, as a board, have some authority when it comes to increasing your charter schools, or let's say adding even a charter school in this district. That's where that conversation.
That site is really small for that size of population. Personally, I think 135 is too many kids for that site. When the district operated as Bethany School years ago, I believe that the school population is around 100, maybe a little bit less.
I can't remember what was there.
But that site is highly utilized right now, really beyond its capacity right now.
So when you say it's highly utilized, I mean, are there any visible choke points during recess, during any
Have you gone
time of
past,
the day?
have you gone past the end of at beginning of school or after school?
No.
It's a mess.
Pick up and drop off.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the number is spelled out in the charter, Todd. That's
Yeah,
that's
that's
where
what-
that
that's
comes
what
from, so.
Well, the number is not spelled out in the Bethany Charter School charter.
Oh,
It
okay.
it is in
Sorry.
our community roots, but in Bethany Charter School, that's not there because we knew that the facility itself
Okay.
determined the maximum number, yeah.
Yeah.
So really what we're talking about is more of a traffic issue than student body issue as far as, I mean.
No, I
when we
think,
say choke
I think the
points-
site itself, it can't handle that many kids. You'd want at least 10 acres for a fairly reasonable sized school like that, and that's not there. You got that lower playground, which is hard to access. Kids play down there, but most of the activities just on that strip right by Hazel Green Road.
And the practicality of where you're gonna put an extra building. There's just no spot on that.
And
site.
and if I remember right, there's some septic issues there as well.
Yeah, I think,
That's-
isn't the septic partially underneath the?
It seems
gym?
like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's also your oldest building. That building's 110 years old.
Didn't realize that. Okay. Okay, any other board reports?
I have a couple of things I just wanted to mention. I wanted to just commend the Silverton High School Theater Department again for a job well done this spring in their one acts. Again, wildly entertaining, very funny. They had a very dramatic, one of their one acts on teen suicide that was very impactful. So if you haven't come out to those, come out in the fall and the winter. They're very entertaining, and they're just, it's amazing to see these kids do what they can do in their skills in acting. Not to mention all the behind-the-scenes kids that you don't see up on stage. There's a tremendous amount of kids that are involved in the tech program and set building that, again, spend hours down at the school. And so my hat's off to that whole crew and to Mr. O for all his work with that group. I had the pleasure the other night of attending graduation. This was my first graduation that I ever got to attend at Silverton High School. So it was a great celebration for those kids. Again, my personal congratulations to our graduates. And I just want to say job well done to Andy and to Mark for creating a very nice environment for those kids to be sent off in a very special way. And Tim for your high fives, hugs, and congratulations up there. It was a fun time to be a part of that. And then the last thing I just wanted to say, and personally to Mark Hannon, thank you for your years of service with the district here, and I'm glad you're still here and going to be at a different spot. But thanks for all you've done for Silverton High School and academics and athletics and all the programs there. So thank you for your years of service at the high school.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for recognizing Mark. That was really good. And I wanted to piggyback on the graduation thing also. Thank you to the high school for, again, putting on an awesome graduation ceremony. Graduation's always a highlight of the year for me because it seems like, the day-to-day we kind of trudge through sometimes, but then you get to graduation, these kids have made it. And it's just a great celebration, and thank you to the board members who were able to be there. It's really cool to see board members there, and I think people really like to see board members there celebrating and supporting with those kids. So thank you for that, and, thank you, Aaron, and thank you, Mark. So.
And one real quick thing, I just wanted to say too, hey, Mark, having my wife work at the high school hand in hand with you all these years, and the hard work and the diligence you've put into senior night, graduation. I mean, for her, she comes back and it's the Super Bowl highlight of the school year. And it's a tough time in our household too, because it is very stressful. Truly, I don't think people realize the time and effort and what goes into the process. Because when it's all said and done, Principal Hannon makes it so effortless and so seamless. But we don't see the hard work that goes behind it. So thank you very much for all your hard work.
Mark's going to do good things for Silvercrest too, so thank you. Okay, correspondence. I don't think we had any, did we, Andy? Second audience with visitors for discussion and action items and budget items? Okay. We'll go ahead and close our budget hearing. Move on to action items. Our first one, approve resolution adopting budget, levying taxes, and making appropriation for fiscal year 2016-2017. Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes. Next, approve resolution adopting supplemental budget for 2015-2016 fiscal year. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that one passes too, thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, same
I
here.
was sleeping.
Pardon me?
I meant aye, sorry, I was sleeping.
Okay,
I was busy reading and not even paying attention to what.
okay. Next one, approve the 2016-2017 employment contract for Superintendent Andy Belando. Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in
Now,
favor?
this is 3-year contract?
1 year.
Oh, 1 year, okay.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, approve the use of Pacific Building Systems of Woodburn for manufacturing of covered play area at Mark Twain Elementary School in the amount of $65,600. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that one passes also. Approve contract with G.R. Morgan Construction of Portland for relocation of playground equipment from Eugene Field School to Mark Twain Elementary School in the amount of $29,125. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And our last action item, approve performance abatement services of Vancouver, Washington as vendor for hazardous material removal for Scotts Mills Seismic Rehabilitation Project in the amount of $42,700. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, we will take a short break and we'll adjourn into executive session under our ORS 192660 to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent who does not request an open hearing. So thank you for coming, everyone. Okay, we will move out of executive session back into regular session. Is there any board action anyone would like to bring on our executive session topic? Okay, hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.